The void stares back. The credits are rolling, the mics are recording. Gaze into the void with your hosts, Josh and Joey, as they discuss thoughts and questions surrounding visual, written, and interactive media steeped in cosmic horror.
Hey,
Hello,
welcome
everyone.
to The Void Stares Back. Episode 13. We just looked it up. It's official.
We actually know the number.
Yeah, weird. Don't hope for that to be a continual thing. No promises that we'll continue to know what number episode it is at any given point.
Right.
So we just watched A Cure for Wellness.
Yes.
So go watch that if you haven't.
Yep.
We're about to spoil all of it.
Yeah. It's a 2017 film directed by Gore Verbinski, starring Dane DeHaan. It's the main actor, the boy.
The man.
Yeah.
All right, so you've been warned. We're about to get into all of the things in a pretty random order, I'm sure.
Yeah.
As most of our episodes
Yes.
seem to take shape. Okay, before we get into the movie
Yeah.
and everything that has going on, what else has Gore Verbinski done? Because I've known about his name since the days of G4. He was like on television shows talking about stuff all the time as a movie guy.
One of his most notable works is the original Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know he did that.
Yes. I don't think he did
He does
follow-ups.
Doesn't he do a lot of like indie house stuff too? Like in the past, is like famous for.
I think I think Pirates was like his big, like. Don't quote me on this, but.
Well, if his name's on it, that's like got to be one of the biggest things he's done.
Right, but I mean, I'm wondering if that's
Critical
his
acclaim
first big one, because that came out quite a while ago. Like that was his first like one that put him in the limelight of like, gave him the big chops
Sure.
to work alongside the greats.
Sure, yeah.
Let's IMDb him real fast here.
So he just directed it.
Which one?
This.
Yes. Looking at the back of the box, I know that the case, he directed it.
Who wrote it?
That's a good question. He also did such hits as Rango, The Lone Ranger.
The one with Johnny Depp as
Yes.
the lizard.
Yes, and then Johnny Depp as, what's his face?
What?
In Lone Ranger.
Oh.
Johnny Depp was Tonto.
Sure. I didn't see Lone Ranger.
He directed Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Dead Man's... Oh, he directed all of them. He directed The Ring. The Mexican with Brad Pitt. One of my favorites from my childhood, Mouse Hunt.
Don't remember that.
It's a comedy.
I think I'd probably recognize it. Sounds familiar, but
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's about two brothers that inherit a string factory from their dad, who they are very estranged from, and then they are also trying to buy this, or they inherit a mansion or buy a mansion, and it has one mouse that causes them all kinds of problems. And Christopher Walken is an exterminator in that film. He's
Okay.
just super weird.
Justin Hayes
Yeah.
wrote the screenplay.
Okay.
For this.
So, yeah, that gives you a small range of... Actually, that's it.
That's all he's done.
He did a couple... he did one short, and then directed all the Pirates films up to, like, the first three. Rango, Lone Ranger, Mouse Hunt, Mexican, The Ring, and Cure for Wellness. And is now currently working on Spaceless, which is not out yet, so...
Interesting.
Yeah. So, short directing career. He's done some producing and other such things, but...
Sure. Yeah, I just knew his name from G4. I don't know if he was like a host on there, because it was about movies that he would be on screen. I don't remember the context, whether it was he was on screen for his stuff.
Right.
And like an interviewee.
Yeah.
Or if he was just a part of... I don't remember. Maybe they just talked about him a lot.
Could it be? Yeah, I don't know.
I just have him in my brain.
Yeah.
Under the G4 file. It's not that important.
The first time I ever heard his name was because of Pirates.
Yeah, okay.
So, And I didn't know he did any of the other stuff that I just read off.
Right. Until
I saw this. That was the second time ever I'd been like, oh, that's the guy who directed Pirates.
Interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, this looks like a weird turn. Saw it in theaters and loved it. So, for its bizarreness.
Yeah.
As we'll digest right now. I'm going to move this microphone.
Sure.
It keeps bumping into my beard.
Sure. All right. Where do you want to start?
Well, the movie opens with a salesman of some sort.
Yeah.
Maybe we believe like stock exchange or something like that. Working in his office in the middle of the night and has a heart attack.
Yeah.
And causes a ruckus.
It's not short of at any moment in any scene in this entire movie to highlight any of the water found there.
No.
Goldfish bowl shot.
Yeah.
Water jug.
Yep.
It's all there.
Yeah.
But water pouring out of the jug if you see him have a heart attack.
Yeah.
The whole shebang. So like okay, I guess we could start with like the recruitment letter.
Yeah.
Thing, because he writes it. One.
He does.
The main character writes one.
Yes. That never gets sent.
Yeah, never makes it out. It's one of the final things he does before things get crazy. Not that the whole
I was gonna say
movie wasn't crazy, but
they weren't
those
crazy
final
enough.
crazy moments, I should say, the last scene of craziness.
Right.
But that's like an interesting thing, I suppose. I'm not sure like what implication it has. There's lots of questions about what level of control Mr. Big Doctor Necromancer Man has over his patients, especially after that last scene prior.
Right.
To him basically accepting his fate.
Yeah.
Or succumbing to the magic.
Yeah. And who knows?
Now, before we get into the events of the asylum or whatever we're going to call it,
The sanitarium.
Sanitarium.
Yeah.
At what point during the beginning of the movie, around the shots and the scenes of the old guy that our main character replaced at the stock exchange or whatever, it was.
Yeah.
Did we get because we got a couple things before we got the creepy mother visit.
Yeah.
Where it flashed us some scenes.
Yeah.
There's like 4 short scenes, one of which was writhing worms.
No, so that is after the accident.
Oh, after the car.
The moment that the buck hits the car and he goes out, we see all these flashes of all the weird stuff that's going to happen, and he has the memory of visiting his mom.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's why I thought it was. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Because that would have been post drinking of the water for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to reorganize all this in my head. So so the only scenes we see after the guy has a heart attack.
We get the letter.
Is
for sure. And
what do you mean we get the letter?
So the guy has a heart attack.
Well, he has the letter, that guy.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't
open it yet. Yeah. It's interesting too. Now I think this is a little probably far-fetched, but it's just interesting that he flips over the thing, touches the seal, then has the heart attack.
Well, it was a strange sequence as well in that beginning thing too, because he's like doing his work.
He's typing away,
and then he's like, "The fuck?" And then he didn't know what was in his mail until just then.
Right.
So it's like a mystery as to how he didn't realize it was a crazy looking letter.
Yeah.
From Sweden.
Yeah.
Like. Mm-hmm. Very minimal customs. Stamps or information. It was just like 4 stamps on the top and like it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the return Swiss address.
It would have been a thick ass thing within a pile.
Yeah,
because of the wax seal. So it's interesting that he notices it then and not at any other point.
Right.
In his day or life.
I think we just have to assume that was busy all day, and like probably a stack of mail was brought to him, dropped down that day.
Sure.
Is my guess. Right.
Sure.
He doesn't.
That
was the first moment he like.
I suspended
stops.
disbelief there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just sort of weird that was a moment that they highlighted.
Yes.
To be him going, this was weird.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, the first moment he ever stopped to look at his mail pile was at 3 a.m.
And
or
to only see that letter
sticking out,
and then to get a notification on his thing, and then to start doing the heart pains. It was also weird that he has, he's an old guy in the shot, has heart troubles of some kind, chest pains rather, and then drinks water.
Yeah.
To fix it.
Well,
he goes like, ugh, and he has chest pains, and and then they subside, and then he drinks water, and he's like, I know what I need, more water. Yeah. And then goes to the water thing, the water jug at the office.
No, he has a coffee cup. He drinks coffee and then has the first chest pain.
Oh, was it coffee?
Yeah, he had a coffee mug, drinks a sip of coffee, has the first chest pain, and then...
I thought he had the pain and then drank.
I mean, he might have taken another sip.
Maybe that's what it was.
It was definitely a mug that he had, because I think that was supposed to like drive home like working late, having my coffee. And
yeah, that makes sense, because he does use a different cup when he goes to the...
Yes, yeah, because then he has the little plastic cup.
The disposable one, right.
So,
right.
But yeah, water's gonna...
Yeah, it's like, I know what'll fix this.
Instead of, literally
it's gotta be the coffee that's causing this old body of mine to break down.
Yeah. Or the cosmic beyond just took him.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably fortunate that he died and didn't have to go through.
I was gonna say, he was the one that was gonna be sent.
I want to see the alternate version where he goes. That plays out the same, but it's just him.
Yeah.
It's just another old guy.
Okay, so...
Because that's also interesting, too, because CEO man leaves, writes a note back to the man the only guy who trusted him or something, like they were close or whatever they mentioned in the meeting that the main character ends up having with the other board members.
Yes.
And it's interesting that, like, the context of the relationship there was that another old man would be recruited.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that it's like that the young man is what breaks the cycle of the sanitarium, right? Like, old people are susceptible to this experience in some facet or another. And how they break familial and business ties with the outside world. Yeah. Or like, I don't know how they divine who's up to bat next.
Yeah, I don't know.
That lady shows up.
Yeah,
it was a weird thing because they said she had been back. It wasn't her first time, based on the small talk that the other doctor, the partner doctor, had with her. He like snaps, has them grab the bags.
Oh yeah, how long are you back this time? Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
So someone does leave. Yeah.
Maybe it was like a preliminary looking into the facility sort of first trip sort of thing for some people.
Was she returning? Like they addressed her by name, but like then they ask her how long she's going to be there, and she says a couple weeks, and then she's like, I probably overpacked, and he goes, oh no, time just slips away when you're here. Like she doesn't know that already.
Right.
So,
well, that's what that was the issue. It wasn't the rest of what they said. It was just the one line where it implied that she had been there before.
I don't remember.
Because the rest of it made sense, right? The rest of it's like, okay, she comes, she's never leaving. Got it. Village like everybody. But they said that like they implied that she had been there prior, or that she was back. Yeah. Specifically.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird outlier.
It was at the end of the movie as well, so like, she didn't matter again.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a strange outlier. I'd have to watch that scene again just to triple check. This is the third time I've watched this, and I didn't ever catch that before. So.
Well, it could also just be like inconsequential and just stating that people do show up, and it's not like just further.
Yeah.
the cycle.
Yeah, I don't know. Backing up, we were talking about. So this old guy is supposed to go.
Right.
Dies. Young kid goes.
Yeah.
The letter is pretty indicative of a very, not necessarily Lovecraft on the nose, but like that a pretty
Yeah, it's about truth and sight.
seeing the truth, and you can't go back to the darkness.
Once you know, you can't unknow.
Yeah, and which is really, I liked that the way that was specifically written to call a little bit of homage to Lovecraft's quote about, we live on a placid island of ignorance in a black sea of infinity, yada yada. And then it goes on to say towards the end of that like science basically will either, like, once we are able to correlate all of these contents in the human mind and science gets us to this specific place, we'll either go mad from the revelation of all our knowledge or recede into the safety of a new dark age. Mm-hmm. And I liked that this letter kind of like calls back to that a little bit, like, you can't go back into the dark once you know. Yeah.
For sure.
Even though you might want to.
Yeah.
After you've seen the truth. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
letter is interesting. I do have thoughts about it in that the context of the movie perhaps lets on that because he drafts his own version of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's mostly identical but slightly different. Mm-hmm. And that he adds the fact, he adds what he's there for.
Yeah.
And then the rest is cookie cutter from the original note.
Right.
In his handwriting. And with like a ballpoint as opposed to like the calligraphy of
the
fountain
pen of
but what I sort of interpreted that as was it's possibly indicative that that's like the ritual of that process, that like everybody is probably drafting identical ones. Or more likely in my head, it's that his is iterative of the one he read.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense.
A part of some system that's like...
Yeah. I'm sure that maybe...
Because he became kind of brainwashed at the end there while he was
just,
writing it.
For a moment, yeah.
Well,
we don't know.
A bit more than a moment. And, some amount of time passes while he's like all fixed or whatever.
Yeah, because he has
which
new
we'll get
teeth.
into, yeah.
There's a lot of sequences in this that make me really... Like, I have a hard time sometimes placing events in reality versus dream versus just whatever the director's trying to tell us through metaphor or whatever. Like, and I like that about it because like I said, this is the third time I watched it. I still haven't fully figured everything out. Like, I've got to...
I don't know that there's answers to these.
There may not be, but I think that's why I like this movie so much, is it's got a lot of different layers of...
Well, this one's interesting, without like getting into specifics yet. It's definitely a different take on, an otherworldly experience in that, like, it doesn't, it gets a little bit ludicrous at times, right? But many times, I imagine. But that feeling that you're describing, where you're like, I'm not sure what I'm looking at any given point, or what I'm meant to glean from these shots, is it's really subtle in this. It's not ham-fisted, and it's like It's like, this is just what you're seeing. It's what's happening for you to watch as the viewer. But like what it is and what it means isn't obvious pretty much ever.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But I guess you want to start there with the change.
Sure.
Of our main character there. We alluded to his teeth being fixed and his leg being unbroken. And things like that.
Yeah. If it was ever broken.
Sure, yeah. That all occurs, the transformation moment occurs after he goes into the modified iron lungs.
Yes.
And because the last shot of him the last shot of his injuries, rather, is of a screwed up mouth
Yeah.
You know, 2 teeth missing and, you know, blood all over him from that experience. And his whole cast is presumably in the Iron Lung during that like sweating process or whatever it is that they're inducing there.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be, because they wouldn't. Because
he has it after.
He has it after, and they wouldn't replace it in between, and the one that he cuts off is very dirty, blood-stained.
Yeah,
like,
it's the original one.
Yeah, it's
presumably.
The same one. Yeah.
So that's, you know, fascinating in that, like, there's, like, more credence that something is going on beyond. Beyond science there. Because
putting eels in somebody's body doesn't make them heal overnight or however long. I guess that passage of time isn't necessarily clear, but...
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions about the eels because, you know, there's I think most of our experience with eels is not with real eels, it would seem, perhaps. And maybe some of those key moments are real, but there's a lot of visions he has that he looks back and they're gone and that sort of thing.
Right, yeah.
And the only time that they're really real is in certain moments. And one of those moments, you know, like, is at the basin where they're dumping the bodies.
Yes. Yeah, and they're eating.
And they're,
the corpses.
For some reason, are, you know, eating dead flesh, or I don't know what that's about. Satiating these, you know, otherworldly eels. And then, like, learning the fact that the vitamins that they're ingesting come from these people prior to being prepped for eel food. I don't know what the context is there about the time frame that the average person who stays there experiences.
Yeah, I don't know. 'Cause, like, we know that I feel like it has to accelerate with some frequency with how often they're treated.
Right.
Especially, like, towards the end of their
the
being
conspiracy
dehydrated.
lady starts getting more frequent
she's
visits.
like, no, I swear I just had it this morning, you know, and it's clearly still mostly morning, like late morning.
Yeah.
So only a couple hours, and they're already doing it to her again, and then he sees her in the basement, talks to her, and then a day or less later,
she's on the slab,
She's on the slab dead.
Yeah.
You know, so in the basin area.
So, okay, so I kind of didn't recognize it because the faces are so emaciated and the bodies are pretty difficult to recognize. I assume he sees Pembroke.
I don't think that he ever does.
Because he says to them at the car, he's gone. And it, to me, because I remember him seeing a face at some stage and then freaking out. I don't remember if it's the one that fell on him at the end or if it was the one that he freaks out when he kills the caretaker.
That one is Mrs. Watkins.
That one's the lady. Okay.
Yeah, that one's the lady when he kills the caretaker.
So it might have been the one that falls on him or something like that.
As he's running from the Baron, he knocks over the cot.
It's just curious that he would say that. He's gone. And perhaps this will speak into some other stuff that we'll get into here in a second about him as he's become. But it was just an interesting line because I remember seeing a corpse having been dutifully shown to me by the camera. Yeah. And not recognizing it. But seeing him seem to recognize it. There was a shot of his reaction of it. Yeah. At some, I don't remember which point it is. I assume it's that point where the Baron's chasing him. That isn't just like, oh no, a body fell on me, because he's seen these things quite a lot at that point, and I didn't think he was going to just be like, oh, scared of a corpse since there's a
he literally just
crazy
saw a guy,
man chasing him.
Yeah, who just tore his own face off. Right. Like,
yeah.
Spoilers.
We told you.
Yeah. I meant to our discussion later.
Oh, yeah. Well, that element of it isn't necessarily key to what we're going to talk about, but it is an element of it. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about the longevity of this guy's existence.
Oh, for sure.
So, if that's not cosmic, I don't know.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I thought maybe it was. Like, that was the final time he sees Pembroke.
Sure. I just always assumed that the last time he saw him was in the eel lung room.
Right.
Where
Right.
Pembroke's clearly...
That was the last time you could see him be
as
recognized.
Pembroke. Yeah.
Right. And, like, you see his teeth all proper after him, like, spending all that time stealing the old reports of his shitty teeth and, like, that whole thing being very strange and mysterious.
We also notice, if we're on the subject of Pembroke, backing up just slightly, when he escapes after his tooth being drilled out, he goes to town.
Talk about that scene.
Okay.
Yeah, but keep going.
He talks to the policeman and stuff, and then Pembroke steps into the doorway. Just happens to be like they brought him with to prove, get him away from me.
I thought that line was funny.
Yeah, well,
Pembroke it was really obnoxious.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. And but Pembroke is very clearly much clearer skinned, healthier looking. Like he's been well cared for at this. Been turned. Yeah, and when the time we saw him before that, like an hour or so in the film before that, he's like pretty weathered. Got spots all over him and like an old man. You know, and so I thought that was interesting.
For sure, yeah.
Especially after we're led to believe he either died or something worse happened to him. Because like the ladies are cleaning up his bed and his room, and there's like blood all over his pillow and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden he's just right as rain the next time we see him. And
yeah, it's I think it's just time gaps are important in this movie, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Never, like they even make a whole moment when he's stuck there that his watch stops working. Mm-hmm. It's like, yep, guess what? Time stops here, and it's not important for you. What was I going to say? Oh, the dentistry scene.
Yes.
I felt like you winced during that scene, and maybe
absolutely
you just shift. Yeah.
Oh no,
you can't do that sort of stuff.
Oh, I watch all kinds of gore and crazy stuff, and dude, it was too real. Yeah. I've had a lot of dental work done in my day.
Sure.
For only being 33 years old, I've had quite a bit of work done, and that it just hits too close to home. So like,
for real.
And being like, it's bad enough when you hear the drill like in your head, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
When you see it and you know how that feels, like I just can't
know the sound from inside your own mouth.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's why. I definitely shifted.
I noticed. I was like. Am I weird? Because I wasn't
fazed by it.
I wasn't fazed by it at all, and I thought it was like really well shot and acted, and like it was a good bit of gore.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah,
but
like
it's too good for me. That was it. I was just like,
yeah, the good bit of detail with like the smoke and like how clearly this guy that they've called the resident dentist is like. Just brute forcing a drill through someone's tooth. Like it's not at all finessed in any way.
Nope. He's just breaking it so he can get the rest of it out. Like, oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty graphic.
Yeah.
There's a couple scenes like that are
they don't cut away.
Really graphic.
Yeah, the few moments in this scene are like where they go over the top. They let you see everything. So.
Yeah. There's the cow.
Yes. And the baby calf scene.
The drill and the eels. In the iron lung.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of those are all like visually like uncomfortable in like in a horror way. And then there's a couple uncomfortable moments visually in just like a personal way. Like with the almost rape at the end. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I wouldn't even call it almost. It really is.
No, yeah, it is.
Yeah. But
yeah, it says it at the top of the movie in the ratings.
Oh, does it? I didn't even notice.
It says sexual assault and nudity.
Okay. I never even noticed that. Yeah. I mean, obviously the first time I saw it, I noticed it, but not on the...
Didn't notice the rating.
Not in the rating, no.
So it's good of them to at least have something.
Mm-hmm. But, and there's a couple moments like that where it's...
Yeah. The ambiance is what makes the movie good, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know that the mystery involved in this is that much different than like what you might find in something similar and less scary or less gory or
Sure,
you know what I mean? Like they're not breaking any ground in that regard, but the ambience and the environment and the vibe of the experience is par for the course in those respects, but also they understood what they wanted to be when they were making it, and and the reason maybe it doesn't hit for me when I say that it's not, it's pretty par for the course, is that I think this movie, viewed by just a normal person, which I'm not about to classify myself as, this movie is full of awkwardness. Not like it's not shot awkwardly or it's purposeful awkwardness, but there's lots and lots of awkward interactions and one-sided conversations and it's all foundation work to build an ambiance of loneliness for the main character.
Yeah,
and that he can't speak to certain people due to language barriers, and the people he can speak to are really dismissive about what he understands to be the truth to be, and like they all look at him like he's insane, and those are, like I say, par for the course for this sort of thing, as well as just building. All of those shots just linger a little too long.
Yes.
And it's very noticeable for me, but I can see that somebody maybe wouldn't notice it, but instead react to it by feeling uncomfortable inside. Yeah. And not know why, other than like, it's generally like nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. Like you say, with the shots that, like if they cut away from that dental shot, it probably would not make you cringe, even if you hear the drill and the screams or something. If they just didn't show it, it wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah,
and they linger on that shot. Yeah. And lots and lots and lots of other shots.
Yeah.
So
I before that, him pulling the tooth out.
Yeah.
Like they don't cut away from that at all. You literally see him snap the nerve.
Yeah, like snap two little meaty tendrils that are attached to it a couple different times.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of a little bit too long shots that linger and just create a break in pace for the viewer. And I think maybe that this is perhaps some science behind it, or whether this is the reasoning behind what they do. I don't know. That I'm not the director of anything. But just like the beats of the movie aren't predictable.
No.
In that sort of pacing where you don't expect to be lingering on this sort of thing, and you see the main character act irrationally when faced with something bigger than him.
Yeah.
He's incapable of surmounting this. Like, he's just one guy against his staff, all paid to restrain people.
Yep.
But he like presses on, right? He's like, no, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, dude.
I'm gonna feel awkward for you because that's like, you had some sense about you, and you've seen what's going on, and for some reason you keep pressing forward.
Right.
And that's what like kind of makes some of these spooky moments just sort of stand out. It's even more spooky where you're the only one for your own cause, and they even linger on that scene when he tries to convince the elderly people that there's no cure and that they're all well, and then they all turn on him, and then nobody's on his side.
Right.
And the people that were are eel food, and
well, and even running into that scene, the girl's like, stay away from me, slaps him, and like it's more that for her, it's more out of being uncomfortable with what is happening to her body and all that. She's just in shock.
That was just sequencing, I think.
But it was really great, like, for him to even like run and like, oh, here's the one person I've connected with this whole time, and the first thing she does when she sees me is
just reject him.
And it was good. Backing up a little bit, you spoke of them like all these shots where he can't break that communication barrier with some people because of language and stuff,
or because they're crazy.
Right. The interaction with the caretaker guy going into the basement.
When he's just speaking Swedish at him or whatever.
Yeah, so he says Vasa, And he's like, yeah, I don't understand. He's like, Wasser, that's water.
Okay.
It's German for water. So he kept repeating water to him. Water.
Well, the first thing he says is in response to him, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't just say water and then he asks what's down there?
Yeah, he's like, what's down there? And he said, I don't know what he says there. But then when he says, he's like, no, I don't understand. He says, Vasa. And then he's like, yeah, okay, or something. And the guy says water again, and then he sees the girl and kind of wanders off. But, so...
Fun stuff.
So I don't know if like the caretaker guy is just like, well, I'm paid to dump these bodies, but I know stuff's going down.
Later he was ready to kill him.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I guess that's true. But
trying to surprise him.
It's interesting that he'd just tell him. I don't know if he was telling him like it's the water or
drink water.
Go drink water. So
because that guy is like the only guy who. So I think perhaps that guy is, and perhaps he's in that photo, the black and white photo, because he's also the only guy allowed down in that space where he could see all the old stuff.
That's very true.
So I think he might be in the photo also.
I've never really thought about that,
because he's got to be tight with the Baron, right? Like, and like he's the only one who hasn't bothered to learn English, and like because the Baron learned it.
Yep.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. Just think about this crazy bloodline. Like, all right, so...
Well, there's not much of a bloodline.
No, exactly.
Since then, right?
Yeah, right.
Same people.
Yeah. Well, and he mentions, as he's about to try and take his daughter on their wedding night, that her sister protested at first. So...
To being raped?
Yeah. So we know that she's born of. I don't know how to make out this family line.
Well, did you at all spy the date on that photograph?
I did not.
Because no.
Oh,
I didn't. I tried to. I thought about it, and then I kept getting distracted by looking at. I was like, look for details on the photo.
Right.
And I just didn't commit it. I didn't really see it. Because that would place like what it is we're looking at, right? Because they never talk about specific time other than it was 200 years ago.
Right.
That the fire occurred.
Yeah.
I think they said 200, right? Mm-hmm. From the events of the movie, presumably.
Yeah.
Because that's what the driver says. And the conspiracy lady also confirms that, I think.
Yes, she does.
As she changes some of the details in what they know about the story. But between then and there, the Baron and that fetus from the shot, I assumed to be her.
Hannah?
Yeah, and it depends on how old that photo is, right? Because like, because I had trouble there, right? Like Hannah's the little girl in the photo, but does that just mean that the photo was taken 20 years ago? If so, why is it in black and white?
Well, I'm led to believe that if he's lived as long as he has, it's because of the healing properties of the water, right?
Right.
The filter system.
Right.
So is she much older than she actually appears?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like it seemed weird that she aged at all.
Yes.
But possibly just aged slowly. And if that's the case, why doesn't she really know that she's just lived for fucking ever?
Right.
And relativity to that.
Well, and because...
But on the other hand, she could not. She's not necessarily the child from that photo, and like as you say, could be born of Baron's sister.
Yeah.
And then keeps trying whatever it is he's trying to do.
Well,
but the likeness of the photo to the actual mother, I guess, or whatever, was like pretty 1-to-1.
Yeah.
So it's assumed that she is that fetus on that, or what, so it's just, because it's important that the fetus was dumped into the aquifer with the leeches, which grants her special magic Superman powers. I don't know.
Well, and she even herself says that she was told by him that her mother died in a fire,
right?
Which is
true.
So
I mean, everything kind of points to her being the fetus, which means she's lived for 200 years.
Right.
And he mentions to our main character at one point, when the main character asks about the photo of her, and he's like, oh, she's a special case, and it's like, what does that mean exactly? And he's like, well, she developed really slow. Like, he's, in that moment, I think he's being somewhat truthful.
Yeah.
Just not
just
as
obfuscating.
Yeah, just not clairvoyant.
The finer details.
With the
that makes sense.
him.
Yeah.
So like
been,
she's
like,
developed
that she's just
ridiculously slow. Yeah.
That old, but as a result,
Yeah.
doesn't age as fast.
Yeah. Which would make sense as to why he looks as young as he does, given that he's also 200.
There's a lot to talk about with that guy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what science has him creating duplicates of his own face. Just to the perfection that he has, and like what that means, and how he's able to do that at all. And
Yeah. Right. That. Yeah. I don't know, dude.
Who's the first doctor that main character boy sees before?
He's just like I don't know his name, but he's just another doctor at the institution.
Well, we know he doesn't come back.
Once.
Screen.
He's the guy that addresses the lady you think was on her second trip.
What?
So the lady that comes in with the fur and all the bags. And
Oh
she's
no,
like,
he's there a bunch then, because that was the guy that was like right-hand man. He's the one at the end staring at the flames as it's burning down.
Yes, yeah.
He's the one
that's him.
quotes. Same guy?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't remember who the first guy he saw
yeah,
was.
Same dude.
Okay.
Throughout everything.
Cool.
And I imagine he's the one that probably handles a lot of the initial patient meetings before the Baron ever interacts with anybody.
Right.
He's kind of like the face of the place.
Yeah.
While the Baron really runs things from behind the scenes. So, for reasons like the young kid coming in and messing with everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't know if there's any other credence to the young versus old thing,
yeah, I don't know.
because like they take moments to talk about it, or not talk about it, but shine a light on it. Like the driver says it first, when he's like, usually my clientels are old.
They're all old rich people.
Yeah. And she talks about it like wicked deep into the movie to the Baron, the Hannah.
Yeah.
She's like, finally someone who's my age, and like,
Yeah, he's not like the others.
yeah. And so like the age of this person is really relevant, and it could possibly, and I don't know a whole lot about Swedish lore and where things might tie into this experience, considering it takes place in Sweden. But this whole movie is basically like a bastardized version of the quest for the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, and the relevance there is that age is the plot device behind a story about immortality, right? Like,
Yes.
people who are afraid to die seek immortality.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's where that stops, or if there's like some more interesting things in there, or
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm wondering too, like if that. I mean, it clearly doesn't matter 100% that they're old. Like the people need to be old to make the serum, because he
produces it.
He produces it. He's been put in this thing that makes him sweat out the serum.
but he
or
also
whatever.
turns there at the end as well, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of being in that state, and perhaps not necessarily being old.
Right. Well, that's why I was just trying to work it in my head to see if there was a reason that, like, if that had anything to do with everybody being old, and like that mattered
Right.
or not. But I don't think that it does.
Because I think, like, whilst watching it, and in the thick of that plot, it seemed like the age was only important to the doctor, to both the Baron, due to the presumable prominence of people who want to be there and want to be treated. Because he makes that line
Yes.
about how it's better that they
want to be there.
Want the cure or
Yeah.
want to be a part of it or
Yeah.
whatever, and how otherwise they're rejected and apparently chucked into, because it
Yeah.
seemed like all the people who were chucked in there were problem
Mm-hmm.
people, because they chucked the old guy that the two handlers beam in the face,
Yes.
and they chucked
Yeah.
conspiracy lady
Yeah.
and whoever else.
Yeah.
So it seems like either they are just people who aren't helping the cause, or are people who aren't truly committed to the brainwash.
Yeah. Totally off topic, as we do, but
Yeah.
going back to the time passage between, we just mentioned him turning. So
Yeah.
he goes into the eel tank. Not
Which eel tank? The first one?
Yeah, I
The
was just
deprivation
gonna say.
one?
I had to
Which tank?
define
There's
there.
300 tanks in
The
this
iron
movie.
lung.
Okay.
He's putting into the lung, and then there is some massive time passage there, because they show him inside the they're not formaldehyde, but like the submerged pool tanks that he first sees all the bodies in.
Oh yeah, they do a little montage where
they
he's
do,
in the,
yeah.
the little towel steamer.
Yeah,
thing,
and then he's in the tanks,
getting the water the hose
sprayed
shot
on
on him.
him. Yeah, all this stuff. So like, I imagine that's supposed to be the passage of like a few days, not just one day.
Yeah, some amount of time.
Yeah, and because then Hannah comes up to him after
by the
being
tree.
told. Yeah, because after being told by the Baron, he's like, now you're ready, or you're a woman now, and she's like, will I ever, leave or something like that? And he's like, I'll always be here to take care of you. And then they show a little montage of him, and then he's sitting outside, and she comes up to talk to him and says, you made me believe that I'd be able to leave this place.
He also has
Like-
a handler.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah, the guy standing in the background. Yeah. So, yeah, we're led to believe that she, like, thought, after being told, like, you're a woman now, like, you're ready to go. And then she's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's mad at him for making her believe that, and she's still been stuck there for some amount of time.
Right.
Even past that point. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
the brainwashing or whatever has happened to him did not
The injection
go,
of many eels.
Yeah, it wasn't an instantaneous thing, it doesn't seem like.
Sure.
Which makes it more believable. Because I was like,
Yeah.
wait, 1 dose of eels? And he's just like, I'm crazy and happy to be here. Why would anyone want to leave? And
I mean,
because he was pretty upset about having eels shoved down his mouth a few seconds before.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can be excited about that.
No, certainly not.
And I wonder if, I wonder what the process of that event is as well, because, it's the first time he's hooked up, he's put in there. He's ball gagged and fed. He's not even fed. He's tracheotomied with like
Yeah.
a 2-inch
Yeah, that tube is huge.
tube that he pushes basically all the way into his
Stomach, yeah.
stomach,
Yeah.
presumably. And then gravity fed a giant iced tea jug full of little eel baby things.
Yeah.
As he gets to watch them
Yeah.
swim down the tube. But what I was going to say is we don't know anything about that process other than that moment that we've seen and the implication that those get hot and that it appears that it's a sweating thing and that they're collecting the sweat of these people who have... So it's basically using humans to filter this,
Eel water.
the like brown liquid.
Yeah. Which he mentions it's water from the aquifer, and like without being filtered, it has a toxicity
Yeah.
unless it's properly filtered, and then that's when he dumps it into him. And
So the filtration
So-
process is through other people.
yeah, which are then fed
So,
to the
okay,
eels.
so I have a bit more credence now that we've sort of talked that through. It jogged my memory a bit. So the people getting dumped aren't because they are onto something, I don't believe,
Yeah,
but instead they are just they're not good candidates.
I think that they're just dried up.
I also think that it could be that they're not good candidates because when he gives a urine sample he inspects the urine of what's his face, right? He looks at a urine sample.
He does?
You remember the scene when he hands him the cup after he's like, and he goes to the bathroom and he puts it in this container and he sees one pee jar and it's like full of like the black goop that was in the, like there's the eel and then there's the valve that hooks to the hose from that. It looked identical to the crap floating around in that whatever, I forget the name on the jar that he inspects. I don't remember if it was, what's his face, the guy he's there to get?
Yeah.
Or if it was a different person.
Okay.
What was the guy's name?
Pembroke.
What was his first name?
Roland.
I don't remember.
Okay.
What was on the thing.
All right.
But it's named, and it says a name on it. And for whatever reason, and I could be wrong, because I don't remember what name was on it, I thought it was the woman, this puzzle lady.
Yeah.
But it could have been... Yeah, I think it had a W, which is why I thought that. And she is one of the dumped bodies.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was like... She's not filtering it. She's just taking it in and then just...
I see where you're going with this now.
Peeing it out and isn't receptive to the
treatment.
The treatment process. Because hers was the only one that was like really gross looking, and he was like, "Oh God," and looked at the name tag on it, the sticker on it.
Okay, I guess I missed that. 3 times I've seen this movie. I missed that small sequence right there. I don't ever remember him looking at that jar.
It's another one of those shots they linger on.
That's weird. That's okay. It's weird that I missed that.
It's pretty early. Yeah. It's like after he breaks his leg.
Oh, okay.
Because he's like, it's after he gets the file. It's after he steals the file. Because he's like, he like calls his name. I forget what the main guy's name was in the story.
Lockhart.
The Baron's like, Lockhart, and he's like, because he has the file in his clothes, and he turns around and he hands him the pea cup.
You're right. Okay.
And then it cuts to the scene where he fills it.
I missed because I was more focused in that moment on him hiding the thing.
Yeah.
And then asking about the locket. You know, and I just missed him handing the cup.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Because then it cuts and he's in the bathroom filling it.
Right.
And then he places it in a thing with a bunch of other pee samples.
Sure. Okay. I see now.
But one of them was dirty, and it was full of these little like black specks that were in there, kind of like that liquid. And it seems like some people aren't
good.
Apparently,
filtering it. Yeah.
Good candidates for that, perhaps.
Sure.
She's in the other room during the treatment, where he like gets scared by the eel in her skin.
Yeah.
Thing. And so I don't really know what stage of time she's there, like in that process, whether she just finished or is queued up to do it again, because she's even more emaciated at that point, and those people who are in the dining hall that eat with them, they're looking relatively well throughout the course of the movie. They don't seem to degrade in physicality, so perhaps they're good candidates and continue to reap the benefits of the eel's life force or whatever the heck keeps the Baron alive for 200 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's the case, because they didn't harp on it necessarily.
That's an interesting theory.
Because, the guy who gets knocked out by the... I was bringing that up earlier because that's the only scene that they cut away from.
Yes.
But obviously I think they'd only do that because the point got across, but we had to stay in the feeling of him being the sneaky boy.
Yeah.
So they cut back to him and was like, don't lose the emotion of like getting caught at any moment.
Right.
Also, like hiding around that corner when they left the elevator. No way they didn't see him.
No way. Yeah, out of their peripheral. Yeah, absolutely
not. Fucking bright white coat in the only area of the entire hospital that isn't bright white.
Yeah. No, I know. There's a couple of those moments where I'm just like, that's not really how that works, but I guess we're going to suspend our disbelief along with everything else in this movie.
Yeah, no, it didn't bother me. I definitely noticed it.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, they cut the guy that gets jacked.
Yeah.
He's missing teeth.
He is. almost all of them.
Well, he's missing teeth and is later found on the slab dumped
Yes.
into the thing.
Yeah.
Possibly not a good candidate.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because he's clearly being wheeled in there to go through that process.
Yep.
And that whole thing. So could just
He's
be
also
more...
yelling, so he's like clearly not okay with being there, whereas like Pembroke was like totally like, I feel great. You know?
I feel happy.
Yeah.
It could also be that particular room with the classical music, because there were 2 iron lungs in the dark room
Yes.
prior.
Yeah.
It could be a staging system normally, whereas, you know, those people basically just have cycles in and out of that place because they work. These people are good candidates, so they go in there
Sure.
to spend some time sweating it all out or whatever.
Yeah.
And all this other steam treatment is perhaps the cleansing of that toxin that they keep injecting into them. Mm-hmm. Or what, you know, I don't know. That perhaps they keep producing if the eels just live in them forever.
I don't know what. So hold on, let's talk about the eels being inside bodies, because the dead calf,
Had it.
had them.
Yeah, well, it was found in a ditch drinking sewer water, is what he said. So
Yeah.
the water coming from up the mountain.
Up there has the eels in it.
Yeah.
Or eel babies or whatever.
Yeah, because he sees one at the beginning.
Yes,
the little
it's itty bitty
larva
tiny.
thingy.
Yeah. And then smashes it.
He just
It
squishes
turns into dust.
It moves, and he squishes it. So yeah, it's just in the water.
Yeah.
So presumably everybody's affected by it in some
Well, that's
facet.
yeah. I'm wondering if like all the people in town are, because like so he takes the girl down to the bar
Right.
in town, and the dudes are about to like kill him or maim him or whatever. They have the scuffle
After the
and then
bar fight?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the Baron walks in, and everybody stops and turns and looks away,
And they're
like,
all scared when he shifts the chair on his way over to her.
Yeah.
They all flinch.
Yeah, so like I'm wondering, with all the elderly people that turn on Lockhart near the end,
Yeah.
and all the townsfolk like turning away from the Baron and stuff, like how much control does he have because of the eel water? Like does the water, do we think that it affects everyone in town
I feel like
as
it's
well?
got to, yeah.
Yeah.
Because so there's a couple of moments in the story where he's able to drink something other than the water.
Yeah.
Right. He has the beer,
Yeah.
but that's on tap. So who knows
Right.
where it came from, how it's made, what's done to it. And then he has the whiskey or
Yes.
whatever.
From the police officer.
But he's definitely in on it.
Yes.
He's got the little blue
Yep.
vitamin vial.
Yeah. Yeah. He's drinking the serum, drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. But the whiskey is the only thing he reacts to differently.
Well, that's because he just drank whiskey over an open wound from his
It didn't
tooth being ripped
feel
out.
that way.
No?
That's
how I
did
read
at first,
it.
but
That's
then
how I registered it.
But he that's not something that goes away with one sip of alcohol. You
No.
don't immediately lose your pain tolerance until you're pretty.
I don't think that he did.
Because he
lose
chugs it again
Yeah.
and doesn't react in pain.
He winces.
Does he?
Yeah. You can tell, he's like, as he's drinking it that second time, really squinting his face. He's just like, I really need this drink. I'm going to muscle through this pain for a moment because
How does he get there? He hops in the car, right?
he hops in the car with the driver.
Yeah.
The driver takes him down and assumedly just drops him off, I guess, because then we don't see the driver again until he runs into him on the way back up the mountain with his cohorts from the firm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a lot of questions.
yeah.
It was just curious. I just wanted to kind of talk about those moments where he's able to drink something that isn't
Yeah.
the water. Like the scene with the first tooth that he pulls out when he takes it to the
Yeah.
lady was really weird.
She's
he's
just like, I'll put it in some milk.
And I was like,
Yeah.
and he's like, taken aback because he's clearly
sleuthing at that moment.
Yeah.
But he's like, okay.
Yeah,
Like, he's like, I don't know what to do with that information.
Yeah.
Go
It's
ahead.
just like, I'll put it in some milk, shall I? You shall, I guess. Go for it. Like,
I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah.
You fucking crazy person.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, I wonder what that's supposed to imply. Like,
Is it like an old thing, like an old wives' tale I'm unaware of, or it's like...
I'm wondering if it's either that,
Because the
they
milk
just chose
also
to.
seemed off.
It's like, yeah, it's like,
watery.
it looks like 1%. You know, it's like almost water.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was basically
and-
just cloudy water.
Yeah.
Milk water.
Right. And but I'm wondering either A, it is something like that where it's some kind of old wives' tale or folklore or whatever, or we got this really tiny window into something that they do routinely for the people there. They lose their teeth, put it in milk. Oh, milk gives you calcium to regrow those bones. Like, you put it in milk and what? Pop it back in?
Yeah, we'll fix it later.
Or yeah, right. And that's
Because
what I'm
like
wondering.
yeah, they see that there's the scene in immediately prior to him being strapped down for the tooth drilling, where he's just hyper focused on the giant like mason jar of rotting teeth, and
It
something
shifts.
moves inside there.
Yeah, which happens to him. I like those moments because that happens to him in the dining hall earlier. He sees the ice shift in one of the pitchers, and he sees the Jell-O wiggle on its own as well. Like it's the start of a hallucination for him, and then he passes out. Like he just falls, and then here he sees it in the teeth, but he doesn't have time to pass out because they just drill into his face.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's then all of a sudden immediately distracted by being strapped down.
Yeah.
And kind of snaps out of that whatever delusion he was about to have.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. Maybe there is something actually in the jar, but I feel like it was
Yeah, I think it was a hallucination.
a start of break in reality for him of some kind. So,
I wonder if there's moments like that, that can be like analyzed and throughout the course of the movie as seams
oh,
to determine like points of reality.
Sure. I was trying to look for it this time, and then I kept getting engrossed in just other
It's
stuff.
not. It doesn't seem to be very obvious because there are a lot of those moments. Like
Yeah.
like I mentioned, what I thought was earlier in the movie, but after the car crash, there's like some
Yeah, they
visceral scenes.
they do the writhing eels, and then the tons of dancing ballerinas,
Right.
and there's like a whole flash of imagery. There's the Baron. There's actually like a silhouette of him at some point in there, and something burning, whether it's the pine box with his mom in it or a future vision of the mansion. I know that there's something on fire. Like they
'Cause that's
flash
the moment,
through multiple
That's
things
also the
there.
moment when the mom wakes up in a sweat
Yes. Yeah.
and drops the ballerina that she's holding.
Which is weird. I want to talk about that. So he has this vision, right? All these things happen. His mom wakes up, drops the thing, like kind of falls back, and is presumed to either pass out or die. And then it cuts to him cremating her.
Yeah.
But all of this is happening in his head, and then we are brought back. So like,
Yeah.
is she waking up to him crashing in the car, or is she?
No,
she's waking up
This
to
was a
something
memory.
else.
She wakes up,
Right. Yeah.
has a heart attack or whatever,
Yeah.
dies in that moment. The timing made it seem like she saw the future
Right.
of
That's
the
what
car
I was.
accident.
That's what I was wondering if that's.
Because she
tells him too.
tells
coming.
him that he's not coming back, so she's kind of weird, and like
Yeah.
they have that whole shot with the giant eye.
Oh, I love
They
it.
do that a couple times in the movie where they shoot the scene through glass.
Yes.
They do it when he's investigating the fetuses in the main
Yeah.
the catacombs or whatever
Underground
in the old
lab. Yeah.
old burned down place. And
There's another couple of them too.
yeah, there's just a couple
Several.
of scenes where it's just shot through the glass and
Yeah.
it's distorted. But there's an important moment in the scene where he's watching her be cremated. He's holding a travel case on wheels. So this is right before he leaves
On the train
to Sweden.
Yeah, this is like his last order of business
Before he goes on the plane.
Yeah.
to then go on the train.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
it seemed like it was a
That's-
memory of just getting us a little bit of. I mean, maybe it's not real as well. Like maybe it is like a weird vision that he has or something. But like if I interpreted it as
Memory.
that, like it added information into the time gap that we got between him
Right.
being on the train
Sure.
and him
Yeah.
being in New York
I
City.
kind of assumed as much as well. I just wanted to bring it up
Yeah.
because like the way it's shot is, while very interesting, very weird.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, now that we're on the ballerinas, they're the main well, they're not really the main focus, I suppose, but they're the focus of the initial concept of being in a dream,
Yes.
which is the Lovecraftian element here, in a major way.
Right.
You know, outside of tentacle-like monsters, eels.
Yeah, but just yeah.
Very specifically, that the ballerina is dancing, which is something you do when you're awake. And he's like, why are her eyes closed? And he's like,
Yeah.
she's dreaming. He's like, but she's dancing. And he's like,
Yeah.
she just doesn't know she's dreaming.
Yeah.
And then who fucking knows what the order of events truly panned out to be throughout the course of the movie.
Right.
So that's where you get instilled with that subconscious concept as the viewer.
Well, and I like that the girl, hands him back the ballerina. She gives her. Well, and he explains to her too. Same story, right? Repeats it. She's like, well, what happens when she wakes up? And I don't know. And didn't finish the story. And then she gives it back to him. She's awake now.
Yeah.
Like she understands. She's not leaving this place.
Yeah.
Whether that's reality or not, and
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Like she's accepted being in a dream.
I mean, there's
or
lots
if
of
she is truly awake from her dream state.
Yeah, and there's a lot of symbology there at the end as well, because they talk about the time that the place was originally burned down was during the wedding. It's burned down again during the wedding.
Yes.
And there is dancing imagery.
Yes.
And flowing gowns and capes and just like the ballerina, and she's in a blue dress through the entire movie.
Yep.
Like the ballerina and
Yeah.
the whole shebang. But I think that also ties into whether or not our main character is awake at the end of the movie.
Okay.
Because he has the insane look on his face before.
Yes.
And he says to the CEOs, the boardmen,
Yeah.
the board members, that he's never felt better.
Yeah. He's like, I feel much better now. Yeah.
Which feels like a natural progression to saying like, this is how we're finally well.
Yeah. Yes.
The treatment has succeeded.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's succumbing to the idea that the treatment is a thing, that it's cured him of something,
Yeah.
and then proceeds to look like a fucking maniac with all his new teeth that are perfectly straight and creepy and
Yeah. Yeah.
a bit off, and clearly has eels in him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what to interpret about, whether he's just becoming some immortal to hang out with the other immortal lady on the bike and like they're gonna go live a bastard version of their, a possible life
Yeah.
with no money or identification, bike pedaling into the the depths of the Swedish forests.
Right. In a ripped and burnt wedding gown and a ripped and burnt up patient outfit. Like, yeah, I don't know.
I also want to know, since we're vaguely on the note of the main character's transformation, the Baron, reacts really negatively to the fact that he's not in a cast.
He does. He looks at his leg and then has a very sour look on his face.
He's very worried about something, and then realizes that it's not going to help him after he just stands there and watches him shout and just lets him.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that was. Maybe it was like it showed rebellion still even after the treatment.
Yeah.
And he was worried about that, perhaps.
Could be. Yeah, I think
And that was all that meant?
It might have just been merely, just pure frustration at the fact that this guy is still, you know, pushing forward through all this stuff that they've...
Yeah, the
you know,
treatment should have worked. And
yeah, he should be subdued at this point. Yeah.
Should be under my control or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what it felt like after seeing the mob of old people shuffle towards him and just touch him a bunch.
Yeah.
Was, you know, this guy should be under my control, which is a weird thing we haven't really talked about, is why he controls these old people, or...
Yeah. Well, I started to get to it with, like,
Yeah.
I wonder if the water in the town controls those people as well, or, like, has influence over them in some way once people have these eels in them. Does he have, like, some kind of connection and power through the eels?
I feel like he's got to some extent, right?
Well, I mean,
like,
even look at his face. Like, when he tore his face off, it's very...
slimy.
It's slimy and green,
it's
like
not muscular.
it's also pulsing. Like, he has, like, clearly some kind of wound across his face that's, like, in a weird state between, like, opening and closing. If you notice when, like, she says, "Dad," you know, to get his attention, and he turns around, you can see it pulsing,
Right.
which is weird.
Yeah.
Not that has anything to do with the eels or anything like that, but, like, it further gives us the idea that he's not human,
Right.
you know, in some capacity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm wondering if that's how he exhibits control over people,
Yeah,
or
I don't know.
pushes that influence.
Maybe he's King Eel.
Yeah,
Cool, because, like, he talks, so...
maybe he's Dagon, and, like, this is a weird version of Innsmouth in the mountains.
Sure. Fish people.
Yeah, except they're eel people.
Could be an interpretation of that, perhaps.
Because, I mean, like,
Well, I was going to say, like, the doctor, you know, before we know he's the Baron,
yeah,
talks about the Baron in third person, right? Like, in, you know,
Yes.
it's just to further sell us that he's
this good guy, and
the Baron's long dead. And the moment I saw the photograph and the thing, I was like, is he
right,
a bandaged up guy from the fire? But the, what was I saying? Oh, he talks about this, what the Baron must have found. You know, he's like, obviously he was crazy, but I respect the man's science, and he would always find a way to compliment the Baron.
Yeah,
In conversations about the past or whatever.
yeah,
But one of them kind of made it seem like, you know, he discovered, like, something was important about him discovering the fact that the water had healing properties,
yeah,
and that he would try and understand it. So it leads me to believe that there's perhaps importance in that initial discovery that has caused him perhaps this immortality and potentially some level of control over how it's perpetuated. Because clearly these people have been around for some amount of time.
Yeah, the staff at the very least, right? Like,
That's a whole nother conversation too. Like, the staff they're at the weird ritualistic wedding thing at the end.
Yeah, they're the ones dancing everywhere in the hall.
Yeah.
It's not the old people, it's all the staff with him, and
you know, at the very end, for sure. Yeah. And so they're, like, celebrating something they're aware of, and all of them are weird.
Yeah.
And all of them play into the Baron's hand in some way. Like, the very first scene after he breaks his leg and the Baron's in his room, the lady that he, like, stares at her ass for a second, and then she turns around and she tells him to drink water or something like that, or rest, or says something. She stares at him the whole time she's in the room whilst he's talking to the Baron.
Yeah.
Just, like, leaves the room holding the tray.
Right,
past the Baron,
still looking at him.
him. So, like, you know, we're meant to be uneased about the staff, but I think it's also just potentially poignant that they're potentially that old as well.
I think so. They have to be some amount of, like, the subjects that survived the fire, right?
Because they also mention the people that worked for the Baron at some point in one of the old stories of some kind, or, like, the loyal subjects did something. They said something about when they were panning the camera shot over the iron lungs that's near that eel scene, he said like the peasants of the
Yes.
made some mention to the old peasants of the Baron serving
Yeah.
him.
He used peasants that belonged to the land
Yeah.
that the Baron owned, but his mistake was that they didn't want to be there.
Right.
You know.
So I think it maybe is just like more credence to the fact that these people are, maybe
from his
that
time.
or at the very least are people that want to be there. And
Yeah, or maybe they're descendants of,
perhaps,
or a mixture thereof. Some people have survived that long. Some people are descendants of those people, and he's crafted like this large group of basically just families that lived on that property,
right.
And
There's also
still serve him.
I didn't understand, the extra relevance other than perhaps creating an uncomfortable tone for the viewer, which I talked about earlier with the pacing of the show and the lingering of shots, of the first deprivation chamber scene where the two employees have that strange voyeuristic
moment
relationship.
Yeah.
And like they say no words to one another. She walks in and he knowingly looks up and then
puts his book down, and like is prepared basically
for whatever's about to happen, and we're like, are they gonna do it? And then they do the weirdest thing that the most awkward exchange.
Very strange, yeah.
So I'm curious about like what perhaps that implies about the staff in like what they're able or allowed to be doing.
Sure.
Like
maybe they can't. Yeah.
Because it's like clearly important to the guy that, he gets this moment.
Right.
And then they're together still when they pull him out of the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. There's an interesting implication about... Because, like, the other implications are that everybody here at the sanitarium doesn't come to work. They all live there.
Yeah.
So they're all choosing to just be sustained by this place.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing comes in. Nothing comes out.
Yep.
Somehow they can feed these people on some system.
Maybe they're all eels. They're eating the dead.
I don't know.
More fish people.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know that I have specific thoughts about that.
I think that was the only
interaction.
particularly non-work related scene of the employees.
Yeah. Yeah, the only very interpersonal one.
Punching that screaming guy in the face.
Yeah, and then like laughing with each other when they wheel him through later. When he's
he's hiding in the
and they're like,
tank room.
The one guy pushing the thing is like kind of chuckling a little bit. So, but yeah, it is very strange. Let's center more on that scene too. Our main character dies, presumably for a moment. When he's in the deprivation chamber.
Sure, yeah.
Like he ingests a lot of water there, and
or perhaps thinks he does.
Well, and that's just it, right? We don't know because then he looks in there. There's no eels.
I mean, the only thing we get is that the graphs flatline.
Yes.
Heart. I don't know why he has 37 heart monitors.
I don't know.
Other than the visual appeal of seeing them all tick.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's curious. And then he falls back into them.
Yes.
What I thought was going to happen in that scene, because that's another gap of time, is he falls back down, and then I thought he was going to wake up still like floating in his original state.
Yeah, like he falls back basically right into the position that he started in.
Yeah, and then he has like a wake up moment or something,
Right.
and then he's still like hooked up, and then he
Right.
feels weird about it, but he actually like apparently gets out.
Yeah, they pull him out, and
he's
maybe... like he is choking, so he did inhale some amount of water when they were alerted to him needing to be pulled out.
So the way I interpreted that is that there's two gaps, right? Like his brain takes the path that we get to experience as he dies, and perhaps his actual heart rate monitor markers didn't flatline.
Sure.
And perhaps that exchange between the staff didn't happen.
Mm.
And he experienced it all, as we did, right? Like, we get to see what he's hallucinating about
Sure.
in that moment. And it's like, I don't know what that would imply about the guy, because it's really early in our relationship with the main character that
Yeah.
he's having this weird
Vision of them.
voyeuristic thing happen while he flatlines and dies and is attacked by eels, but not really attacked because all the eels stay at the bottom of the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And they don't even bite him or anything while he's just floating in there when they first emerge. Like they're just flowing around him.
And the only reason I say that is because he swims up to the top and he's like, "Get me out!" And he's like banging on the thing, and then it cuts to the outside of the shot to just further cement the fact that you're only opening this with that machine.
Yeah.
The pulley system, this giant tank, and it leads me to believe that that's the moment he's pulled out. Right, like
He gets to the top and they just pull him out.
he freaks out and he bangs on the thing and he swims up, and that's the amount of time it takes the dude to come over
to
and
run
open
up and open it up. Sure.
and all that stuff doesn't happen in real life.
Okay. I can buy that.
He still starts to die, probably, right?
Yeah, he's like choking on water
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah, he's
but
freaking out because
that
he's
just-
having this crazy vision.
Yeah, that
you
just
know.
maybe furthers that experience for him.
Sure,
and
I'd buy that.
bases
Yeah.
it in reality. I just don't know what it means that he had that weird vision.
Yeah,
Other
right.
than the eels, obviously the eels keep reoccurring.
Yeah, it's a reoccurring theme, and it's
Does he experience any eel things prior to him ever showing up? Because the first imagery of eels that I think he sees is the gate.
yeah, that's what I thought it was too.
And perhaps the seal on the...
yeah, that's the first time the viewer gets to see it.
Well, he gets the note. He gets to look at it during the board meeting.
Sure,
And the
but we
envelope
don't
is
ever
there as
see.
well.
It is, but we don't really see a shot of him like looking at the
Sure.
envelope. We just see him reading the note.
I was just trying to think of whether, like,
I
because
think-
those visions are baseless, right? Which gives credence to the idea that it's supernatural. Why is it that he's seeing eels? Because he's seeing them. They're not really there in a couple of instances.
Right. Yes. Yeah, very much so. The deprivation chamber, the
Toilet scene.
toilet scene. He has a dream of Hannah in the tub full of eels.
That's much later, I think.
It
right?
is, but
That's after she obtains lipstick and is putting it on.
Yes, it's before the toilet though.
Sure.
Deprivation chamber, dream of her, and then
Well,
toilet.
the deprivation chamber is really early, that's the
It
part
is.
that's confusing. It's like, where do you
Right.
see these eels? Why is it eels that he's seeing?
Yeah, at the first.
And the first thing
real-
he sees is probably the little one on his finger that he squishes.
Yes, yeah. The first real life instance is the gate, then his finger, and then he has this vision in the tank.
Yeah, I'm like curious where that, because I like the
I
fact
don't
that it
know.
doesn't come from anywhere
Yeah,
would give credence to the idea that it's supernatural
yeah.
or
There's some kind of force
something
governing
greater there,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What about even before that? He's looking for Pembroke. He goes to the steam bath area, and
he has that like
Maze
endless
moment.
maze experience,
Yeah.
and then the black pool of water
yeah, where Pembroke like,
vanishes for a moment.
and then comes back out concerned.
Yeah, different. Comes back out different.
Right, which I thought was Lockhart believing that.
That he could get Pembroke out.
Yeah, like I don't know that Pembroke actually.
You know what's funny? During that whole scene where he's looking for Pembroke and he finds where he's meant to be, and he
Yeah.
pretends to be him for a moment, and then he goes to talk to him. I was like, this fucking idiot is gonna slip and fall on these crutches, and he's like really sopping wet, tiled,
Yeah.
giant maze.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like he's gonna eat shit and like hurt himself even more. And
Right.
but he never does.
Yeah.
He's a king on those things.
Yeah.
Never chafes his armpits. Goes upstairs like a madman. He's a god.
Yeah.
He's so fit for a person who takes his shirt off and doesn't appear to be particularly
I was
fit.
just gonna say, like, we see him, he's not that fit. Like,
It's like, damn, man.
yeah.
Because he's like, Pembroke, where am I meant to be? I'm lost. And he's like, room 200 something, and I'm like, there's no way this guy's trekking across this entire estate on these
Yeah.
crutches like it ain't nothing.
Right.
And he does through the whole movie.
Yeah. Yep. Sure does.
Just a thought I had, because he
Yeah.
also uses them naked right? And like that would just be awful on your armpits.
Oh man,
It's the worst.
yeah, terrible. But yeah, he goes through 4 rooms.
I feel like there's more than that.
Well, he goes into the steam bath, like so he's walked through, seen the people.
Yeah.
Makes the turn, goes in. There's one.
He makes a right.
He makes a right, makes another right, makes a left, trapped in a room.
Oh, okay.
Then turns around. All of a sudden, there's a door into another door that he sees, and he walks through those 2 and
he
finds
sees the
Pembroke.
deer.
He sees the deer, and the deer becomes Pembroke,
Right.
maybe, or at least the deer's
It's where
walking in the
it led
in
him
the direction.
toward where he was.
Yeah. So
So that was like 2 other rooms he passes through
yes,
to get to the long room with the benches.
yes,
So there's like a bunch of rooms he
it's like
experiences for some
6
reason.
rooms or so. Yeah, all of them empty until the last one.
Right.
Which then Pembroke leads him out of that room into this other one with a giant black pool of water in it.
Yeah.
So, and some kind of chest at the end, which we never see anything more of.
It's a very interesting experience.
It is.
Because this is well past his ingestion of some amount of water as well.
Yes, because he's on the crutches, so he drank 1 glass when he first got there, tried to leave, wakes up, he's in a cast.
So they hand him another
They hand him
glass that
another,
he just
drinks that one, and then
drinks.
starts to explore the place. So he's had 2 full glasses at least
Yeah.
at this point.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's just having delusions.
Yeah, it was a very weird scene. As far as like placing it into the rest of what we've been talking about, it doesn't really fit. And there's still
No.
a couple moments like that.
Yeah.
Other than to suggest that he's seeing things. Right? Like
Yeah.
he's experiencing these like, he's been led to believe hallucinations are a common thing. And and it's interesting because they talk about like, the cure, going through the cure and drinking all the water and just being in the program, and the symptoms being seeing things or all this other stuff as a manifestation of the toxins being released in your body, which they established during the deprivation chamber scene.
Yeah, there's like, it's just the toxins leaving the body.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and
If you see things, it's normal. But he hasn't ingested the toxins that he refers to later when he puts them in the iron lung thing,
yeah.
because he's like, this is straight from the reservoir, unfiltered or whatever
Yeah.
he says, and this is the toxin.
Well, because they don't say that you ingest the toxin, that's why you have the visions. It's your toxins leaving your body
Sure.
is why you have visions.
Right, but it seemed like the connection, the logical connection there was that, like when he says it, you're meant
Yeah.
to believe the toxins you came here with, the ones you
Sure.
started with,
You're right.
are being depleted.
Yeah.
And then later, you basically grow to realize there's no toxins.
Yeah.
This is obviously ludicrous.
Yeah.
And then they're like, here's some toxins. I'm going to pour it straight past your,
Right. Yeah.
your throat into your stomach. And then you'll experience something as those toxins pass through your body.
Right.
Via these heat chambers that we're cooking people in.
Yeah. I mean, it could be because there's clearly little eels in the water everybody's drinking.
Right.
They're feeding them some amount of them.
Yeah. It's, it's
So-
like the killing somebody by putting a little dose of something harmful into them over a long period of time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Getting their
Yep.
body acclimated to these little baby eel larvae or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Me either.
And you're supposed to have the answers.
I don't, man. This movie's got all kinds of questions it asks.
It does.
I don't know that it serves up very many answers either. It's a lot of speculation.
I think the only other thing I was thinking of as a big thing about the movie was Hannah. We didn't really talk too much about her.
No, and she's a pretty big part.
Right. We learn, okay, well, first off, she's like, got to be in some way integrated into his visions, because the first scenes we get of her, she's teleporting around.
Yeah, he looks.
She's in the center of the wall at first, passes through the first circle. Then she's at the edge of some wall,
Yeah,
like a different wall,
yeah,
with like the separated like
basically like castle.
Yeah, like traditional castle top
Yeah.
thing. And then she's on a normal wall again once they're farther away in the forest.
Yeah.
And she's like some acrobatic monkey demon thing that apparently can move like that quickly over the tops of that, or we're meant to either believe that or assume that she's not real.
Yeah.
And that he's seeing her.
Right.
And so I don't understand that implication, considering that's another thing he wasn't seeded.
Yeah.
Like the eels, like he didn't really have a reason to see eels or her, as she definitely exists later in the movie.
Right.
Yeah, it was just another unnerving thing, I think, mostly.
Yeah, the only explanation being that he had the one glass of water at that point.
Right. By then he had the water.
It's just weird that...
And that's like, that coincides with a lot of those moments, and whether they actually happened or not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel as if there's a lot of credence to it. There's a lot of pieces that don't line up with this, but it feels like it didn't happen.
Which part?
That scene where he leaves.
Oh, okay.
At all. None of it happened.
Oh, okay.
Now, there's one really integral piece to that doesn't feel like that's the case, but we can talk about that in a sec. But the reason that it felt like that, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And how he talks about it later.
Yeah, getting a new car. And,
He is dodgy in that conversation, which is interesting. And drunk or whatever, apparently.
Yeah.
Or told that he's drunk by the cop who's also in on it later.
Yeah.
He drinks the water, sees the weird girl.
Mm-hmm.
He has those weird interactions as he's looking around and all these weird people doing like kind of insane, creepy, consistent things.
Yeah.
And then he sees the deer.
Right.
He very meticulously is the only one who sees the deer. And that's another elongated shot. He sees the deer deep into the forest. Because clearly the driver doesn't in this scene, right? He tracks the deer with his head. He looks up, sees the girl. The guy mentions the girl, but to see the girl, this guy had to look behind the car.
Right.
So it's unclear how the driver ever catches a glimpse of the girl.
Yeah.
Firstly, then he's like, she's pretty, isn't she? I think is what he says. Something
He goes, pretty girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, starts to want to say something to that, and turns, sees the deer, and then tracks the deer, and then we get the crash scene.
Yeah.
And it's like another shot that lingers, right? We see the deer's caught in the window, we get to see it freak out on the car, and then we see it freak out and die. And the main characters are just gone.
Yeah.
We don't, the car's just in the forest now, and we just get a shot of an upturned hood, or the rear of the car.
Yeah, the undercarriage, and
and then the deer basically struggle and die. And then later, the Baron makes reference to the deer.
Yeah.
In the conversation where he passes out at the dinner table. He says,
he's like, or would you rather have the venison? I couldn't let it go to waste. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like all of these memories feel seeded, and there are those moments that perpetuate it a little bit. And it takes him to leave after a lot of effort of being in this place and then convincing the girl for the bike ride to get a beer or whatever to actually interact with the driver again.
Yeah.
Where he's a little drunk and maybe about to give away too much. Because the popo sort of
sits in between them and
basically stops the conversation.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, yeah, you're drunk. And then the guy turns away.
Yeah.
And disengages.
That's true.
And he sort of takes over that moment. So it is a little bit of a weird series of events.
He also sees the deer head in the office.
Right.
So the very first thing that we
scene
see
is the reflection of the eye of the deer.
Of the deer, right? That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And then so we're led to believe, as he observes the room, there's very clearly a deer head on the wall. So that could be the deer that's then presented in his mind when he's if this is not real and it's a vision.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I'm like, I wonder if we will be able to watch the beginning of the movie up until that first sip of water, whether there's any eel imagery in his life.
Yeah.
Because he gets the fish. He gets a fish. He drops the fish into the garbage.
Yep.
So he's got something that's related to the old guy who's the only connection to Pembroke. But maybe there's something more somewhere.
Maybe.
It's curious. I do like the opening shots of the movie as well. The
buildings,
the cityscape.
Oh man,
And the sickly green sky.
Mm-hmm.
That footage also looked like, maybe not really obviously, but it seemed to me, and perhaps I'm wrong, like tons of doctored shots to diminish the number of lights that would be shown at any given building.
Yeah.
Because they were very, very sparse.
Yeah.
And they kept a couple on just to keep it real, it seemed. And then they had the one of the guy working late.
Yeah.
But I think it just overall added to the... Like, 'cause it's fucking New York. It's not... It also doesn't sleep. It's a city that doesn't sleep,
yeah.
you know, and,
Yep.
and they made it dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thought, and there could be a number of moments along the way where he slips into these moments. Because like when he wakes up with the broken leg, there's no proof that it was ever broken to us.
Nope.
He cuts it open later, after presumably about a week has passed.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, maybe more.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably maybe a couple weeks that he spent there in on-screen time, allowing for reasonable time gaps where they just forced them on us.
Yeah.
Cuts it up and he's fine. So he's just walking on it like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that shit doesn't happen. You go to physical therapy when you break.
Yeah.
You have a full leg cast. Like,
Yep.
Once you're out, you're not out of it.
Yeah.
He's just running around now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're led to believe at that point it was never broken.
Yeah. And
Whether he was actually in the car accident or not, it didn't break. They just used it as an
he's
excuse.
real dead from that car crash. Because in the moment of that scene,
He's not in a seatbelt.
he's not in a seatbelt for
Yeah.
one. And I took it, and the reason it stuck out to me is because I was just like, as I was watching, I'm like, how cool! Like I want to know how they shot this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool when they do scenes like that. I'm just curious if they just build a back half of a car and rotate it with an actor inside it.
Yeah, right.
You know,
I don't know.
It's a cool shot, but yeah, that's just a thought I had about that moment before we carry on with Hannah, because that was our first introduction to her.
Sure.
And like I say, I don't know where he would have gotten her imagery prior to the drink, but maybe there's something.
Or maybe, I mean, like...
Because he looks carefully at every single photo before he takes the drink. He inspects like everything in that office.
Yeah.
And everything he led up to that moment as well.
Yeah.
He's told the story by the driver about the past.
Yep.
So there's like a lot of these little things that he gets to know, and then he fucking chugs an entire glass like he's, you know, completely dehydrated and thirsty. Every drink of water he has is like he's been in a desert for a long time, and that becomes more apparent when they talks to the cow killer,
Right.
about dehydration and stuff like that. But yeah, that'll be a curious thing to maybe have in your brain as you watch the movie again sometime.
Yeah, I definitely will keep it in mind.
Any more about... the one thing I did want to talk about with Hannah wasn't that. That just sort of was a nice train of thought to go down.
Yeah.
Was the scene where she is in the pool with the eels and she starts mimicking the movements of... Like the choreography of her movements is in line with that of Sneaky...
Yeah.
What's his face?
Lockhart. Yeah.
Where he's descending the stairs to the crazy place and she's...
Yeah, they keep cutting
wading
back and
into
forth.
the pool with the eels. It's definitely a really weird moment where she is in the pool and then presumably has her period.
Yep, starts it for the first time ever, yeah.
And then the eels, like, she sees them.
Right.
It seems.
Yeah.
But it also seems like maybe she didn't. And that we see them. Because she, during that whole sequence, doesn't react to them very specifically. She sort of, she could have acted the way she did without any eel imagery in that shot, as if she was reacting to the way her body was feeling. But paired with the eels, the imagery also felt like she was afraid of them.
Yeah.
But she wasn't leaving the pool. You know what I mean? She was stationary as the moment occurred, and she was like processing it and like kind of guarding her crotch and like crossing her legs a little bit. And, and that doesn't feel abnormal to what she may have just been experiencing anatomically, as opposed to the eels being important. Because then the eels are just like circling her.
Yeah.
They like get kind of close and then maybe realize who she is.
Well, that's what I'm wondering if like...
And that was what we were meant to glean from it? Like she's like got a connection with...
Yeah, she's important. Like she's of the same bloodline, right? Of this guy who may, now we've just discussed, have control over these things in some fashion.
Or a connection or bond or something.
Right.
Because if it was like control, like who knows what the rules are of that, but he's surprised that she's covered in blood when she shows up. So he doesn't know anything that just happened.
Right.
Until she gets there. So yeah, I don't know, it's just curious. Because the eels come out before she starts bleeding, I think. She like starts to wade through it, and then they start coming, and then she's experiencing that in that same moment. I felt like it wasn't like blood hits, then they show up.
She starts before they come through the grates in the thing. So, because the sequences, they're both walking down in. She starts to bleed. Then it cuts. The first body's dumped into the thing. Eels come to start eating that, and then it cuts back to her, and they start coming through the grates.
Gotcha.
Because there was a lot of mimicry between them feeding.
I think it happened in the other order, because I thought what was going to happen was the blood was I think you're right about the order of the eels and the blood, but what I thought was going to happen was the bodies would be dropped, and it would distract the eels, and they'd come back for the corpse.
Oh, sure.
And it would save her, because I thought she was in danger.
Right, yeah.
In that moment, and I was like, oh, okay, so the body timing is going to be what protects her in some way.
Right. I think
it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, it's led to make you feel that, but then it turns out it's just like...
Different eels eat the body, and like those eels hang out with her.
Yeah.
But that scene was just kind of... It was interesting to me. She never really reacted to the eels at all in the entire movie as like another entity that she would ever talk about, refer to, anything. Because she was the one who was like kind of an open book about it, except for when she's feeding them. I
was going to say, the very first time we ever see her...
She knows they exist.
Yeah, he's
or whatever.
Like, is there something in the water? Yeah, something at the bottom. You know, so...
But she's at the top of the castle, and it's just like a thing. It's a little trough of water or something up there.
Yeah, it's like a weird well that's full all the way to the top up there.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's interesting. Because like the way that the chasm at the bottom, the aquifer or whatever that is, the grotto, is sort of laid out, suggests that that well is not
attached to that.
It's not a part of the same source.
No.
It may lead back to it through piping and plumbing, but it's definitely not.
Right.
Like, you can't swim down that and get to where that is.
No.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Well, and the eels have access to the pool. If those eels are there where she's in the pool, they have access to that from that same aquifer.
The grate.
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to swim up
to
the toilet and that sort of like perpetuated stuff that they're in the plumbings.
Exactly, yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, it just sort of made me feel like, you know, that wasn't necessarily what was being experienced.
Maybe. It's very possible.
But it still works both ways.
It does.
She seems to react to them.
Right.
But once again, could do more to stop them if that was something that they were coming. You know, like she didn't do enough to make me believe that she was stopping them.
Right. I mean, and almost the way she reacts though is of someone who is very innocent, helpless, doesn't even know.
She's also the one that presumably was first dumped into the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know at what stage these eels became carnivores that eat human bodies whole, like piranhas do in the movies, which piranhas don't do in real life.
Right.
And like eels don't do in real life.
Yeah.
So it's I'm not sure what the relationship between her and the eels are outside of that particular scene.
Yeah,
which is
I
the
don't-
only scene that they ever are together.
I don't know either.
Because she isn't surprised when they're eating the Baron.
No. Yeah.
She knows that that's the thing that happens, I guess. Or doesn't care,
Right.
which feels maybe not the case.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it's bad writing.
Maybe it is all bad writing. We've all read too deeply into this. I'm usually the one who says that. Who
know.
are you? What have you done with Josh?
Spent too much time around Joey.
I
Anything
think
else?
that's the first time we said our own names.
Maybe.
This particular episode.
Anything else you want to touch on, or? I mean, there's a lot, obviously, that this movie can offer, big and small, but we hit a lot of the major beats, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially the stuff that sort of pertains to what we like to talk about
Yeah.
on the cast.
Yeah, I'm not... I don't think I'm too dissatisfied at this point. So.
I guess the only thing that I usually start with in these is the cinematography, and this was awesome.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's a really cool shots
Yeah.
that just add on to that uncomfortable feeling I described earlier, where they're lingering on all these shots. It's not uncomfortable, but they are also lingering on like really gorgeous shots. And like, you couldn't hear us because we weren't mic'd, but which I usually don't do, spoke up a couple times during this about how like cool the shots
that
were.
train one, specifically.
Yeah,
I remember seeing the trailer for this movie, like, so this came out in 2017, like, so 2.5 years ago, you know, because I saw it a few months before the movie was coming out, and the train shot alone, I was like, I need to kind of go see this movie because it looks gorgeous. I don't even know what it's about, but it looks amazingly gorgeous.
Yeah, there's a shot in the movie, if you didn't go watch it like we told you to, where it's like a GoPro mounted on the side of like this really sleek,
Very clean.
clean train. It looks like a bullet train. I don't know that it is, but
Yeah, and it's going through the Swiss Alps.
yeah, and it's on a bend, so you get to see all of the individual cars as they, align with the bend of that shot, and the mountains and forests are in the background, and it enters
reflecting off the car windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great shot. And then there was, I audibly spoke up about how cool the shots are of the mother when they have the giant eyeball shot through the magnifying thing that she's using to paint with. And there was a couple of others that
I think
I spoke up about.
The shot towards the very end when she buries that axe in her dad's head.
Oh, like the
point
the
of view
shovel
shot.
mounted shot.
Yeah, it's not an axe, the shovel. Yeah, but it's from his point of view.
Yeah,
Like she's like, whoop, and it looks like she is swinging at almost a 3/4 angle off screen.
Yeah,
and then you realize like, oh, we're looking at it from his left eye perspective.
Yeah,
because it just holds that for a while, and the shovel handle is just kind of shaking for a bit, and then it does a 180
and it's mounted to
and
the handle
mounted to
instead of
the handle, and you see like his face with it buried in it and stuff.
Yeah, that was really good CG work, but as far as like camera positioning, but the seams were definitely there on the CG work.
A little bit,
in that whole movie.
Yeah,
There was a couple of things that were really obviously CG, but they got a lot of the beats done right. Like all the eel CG stuff was it was great.
Yeah,
that was pretty flawless. So good on that. But when we had like weird goopy face man and like CG axe and like some of that stuff was a little, and there was some other ones I don't remember them because that sort of stuff doesn't bother me as much as it does for some people.
Yeah.
Luckily they weren't CGing entire people.
Yeah.
Because that's when you get into dangerous territory. It's very difficult to get that right and expensive.
Like all the dehydrated bodies looked all pretty good.
Yeah.
This too, like they didn't.
That might have been practical.
It could very well have been.
I didn't really. The seams didn't show too much for that, so it could have been practical. I'm not sure. It'd be cool to know which is which for this. Like the deer CG.
Yeah,
was fine. Yeah.
It walking with the windshield frame still bent around it and stuff.
That was a nice shot.
Was actually pretty good.
It was really obviously CG, but it was lit and scened in that shot really deliberately and very well done. It seemed.
Yes, yeah.
The lighting on the creature didn't feel out of place or it didn't stand out
No.
or anything like that.
Yeah,
It was-
it's something you knew was CG because you just know, but
right.
you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, that looks actually really
It
good.
was good.
So,
Cool. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure we get that moment where I get to talk about.
oh, absolutely. No, that's
Cinematography.
one of my favorite parts of the movie. I mean, given all the other crazy stuff going on, but like it is a very pretty movie to watch. So,
I don't know. I can't speak to it about the accuracy of the accent work done. But it coming from an American as I am, and knowing a bit about some accents, I don't really know a whole lot about. Pre-Germanic,
Swiss and,
early
and all that.
Germanic like languages that the
Yeah.
Baron was supposed to be
Fluent
based on,
in, yeah.
and then like what his English would have taken as a result of that previous life that he's lived
Yeah.
and that whole thing.
I mean,
It felt, and the reason I bring it up is because it felt like it was approached the way I would approach it in my current state of knowledge.
oh,
Like a pretty normal German-esque
yeah.
accent. And I don't know if it's true to form at all. So maybe that's a breaking point if you're really familiar with what it's
Could be.
what it's supposed to be, where it's like, these are kind of rough. The caretaker seemed really good. With,
Yes.
Like the
Yeah.
pronunciation of presumably Swedish. I don't know. I assumed it was. But yeah, like the fact that the English existed and the prevalence that it did occasionally felt out of place.
Well,
But it makes sense that
this
they
takes
would be able
place in
to.
Switzerland, which and English is like the number 2 primary language.
Yeah, but it
there.
doesn't talk. It doesn't date itself
It doesn't. No.
when
but-
it takes place in Switzerland, because modern Switzerland, English is taught in their school systems
Right,
pretty
absolutely.
heavily. But I don't know when this was. There's not a whole lot.
Somewhat modern day. I mean, like
Yeah,
they have a million computers in the opening shot. So,
Yeah, he also had a relatively modern-looking cell phone.
yeah, and laptop and all that stuff that he was using. So
So yeah, I guess it's reasonable.
yeah, I think we're led
some
to
extent.
believe that it's at least in the early 2000s, if not actual present day. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
as always.
That wraps us up here, I think.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Glad I got to see it.
I'm glad you
I think it's
didn't hate
definitely.
it.
I think it's definitely on the cusp of being tangential to what the show is. Like
I was a little worried.
luckily
but like,
has dipped its toes in enough, and
Yeah. Yeah.
talking about the movie was interesting enough. But
Yeah. I think it's got enough of the themes going on, but it's definitely, it toes the line. a
for
bit.
sure. Well, it's also
So,
not about that
No.
necessarily. I mean,
No.
it has a couple moments like the ending and,
Yeah.
maybe these moments existed, maybe they didn't sort of experience. And
Mm-hmm.
like the fact that they talk about dreaming, like you could tie it.
Yeah. This feels
loosely.
like one of Lovecraft's stories that was not messing with cosmic horror.
Yeah.
Right? It's one of it's like a rats in the walls type of thing, or like
Sure.
or I mean even I made kind of a joking mention, but like, Shadows over Innsmouth, like it's more grounded in a reality where there's just like some creaturey horror stuff, but it's not a cosmic thing.
Yeah.
And so it's got that.
And I mean,
going.
this like definitely basically is implying that there is a cosmic thing in that there's otherworldly things at hand.
Yes. Yeah.
Very strange, non-human,
Mm-hmm.
non-real world
Yeah.
occurrences and stuff like that. So
Yeah. It's
definitely has something there to grasp in it, and that's kind of what I want to like be able to highlight in this show too.
Yes.
Right? Like, and me and Josh have made like a list that's too long for us of things to watch and to play and to experience, and and some of those start to drift from what you've already seen us watch or heard us watch,
Yeah.
heard us talk about, which is pretty one-to-one Lovecraftian.
Yes.
It labels itself as Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
It attempts to deliver on those notes, and it does them in different ways. And this is the first one that I don't think is. I don't think it was intending to be that experience. Like,
maybe not 1-to-1, but I definitely
it's
feel
got
like
notes of it. Yeah,
I was
hints of
gonna say,
it.
I feel like there's inspiration
There's
here.
some themes that cross over,
Yeah.
but they're not deeply integrated into what makes the story move and is interesting to watch.
Sure.
As much as it's just like, wow, this is really strange and uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I think it hits on some definite themes and some like major strokes of what makes a Lovecraft story good. But I feel like Lovecraft barely knew that himself. Like, I think we understand really what goes on in a Lovecraft story upon reflection of watching his works and analyzing them to the scrutiny that we did. He was like, I want to write about fear and like the idea that we can't know a thing in some cases and what that means to the psyche to not know a thing.
Yeah.
And what comes of that telling of that story is loneliness and feeling like an outsider or
isolation and alienism
shame and indifference to like what we think is a reality. You know, and in the case of this context of the story, that's basically like, here is his life in New York City.
Yeah.
What he understands to be life. He has to visit his dying mother, and his father is dead, but he's a successful businessman, and he knows business, and he's got to do business things, and he comes out here to a place that's like, this is like an old school, early Renaissance piece in storytelling. I think there's a word for it that I'm just uneducated about in terms of like the era of writing, where all of the stories were really focused on nature versus industrialism.
Sure, yeah.
And going back to nature. And this is steeped in that, right? Like he has this hustle and bustle, and then he goes out to the countryside of this thing, and everything is about water, and it's a very natural force.
Well, even, the Baron keeps talking to him about, the getting away from the distractions of the modern world.
Exactly. And that's like, those are very strong themes in ancient in writings from like the 10s and the 20s back in the day. And it has a name, that era of writing. It's Renaissance of some kind.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know what you're referencing.
Yeah. And Lovecraft doesn't do that. That's not a thing that's prevalent in his stories. His is basically suggesting that the nature that people escape to in his stories is a primal entity, and in some cases takes a physical form. And in some cases is just a thing that just is meant to be, like as a thought or whatever, where he just is. And that sort of concept. And this is like sort of like that, where it's like this natural primal force that's beyond our modern life. And there's crossover there, but I don't know that it's 1-to-1. And I think creating a story like this, if you spent your entire intent on paying homage to Lovecraft, you don't make something that is like, because this feels really unique in what it's doing and what it's telling and the way it tells it. And I think this had its own vision behind it.
Absolutely.
And I think the people who make it probably like Lovecraft and that sort of thing.
I think you'd be hard pressed to
not saying that
find
they're not there.
the writer and ask him,
you ever heard of Lovecraft?
And I don't think he says no.
Right.
I think he says, I love Lovecraft, and that's why I wrote the story I did, but it's my own.
Right. And this is like, this is that for sure. Like you mentioned, has some major beats, but this is farther from anything we've watched so far. Like Annihilation. It's like 1-to-1. It's a modern retelling of The Color Out of Space or whatever, and has really strong Lovecraftian themes. And it basically says this is important to the story and we're going to run with it. The Endless is very clearly a Lovecraftian thing. And like, all these other things have actual like horror monsters and cults making them. And, like, this didn't have
the Void was very much the creature side of Lovecraft.
And the Eels in this, like when they're actually doing things other than like maybe going down people's throats in scenes that could be real, it could be not. They don't see any screen time.
No.
We just see like eels. So like it was like an interesting thing when we first. Sorry, we were trying to close the story out, but I'm mention this real quick. When we first see the first body dumped into the grotto, it isn't shredded up in the same way that it is later. There's more lingering shots of it drifting around in the water.
Yeah,
and the eel's kind of like acclimating to what it is. There's like shots of the eagles approaching it, basically. And then he gets attacked. I think that's the same scene where he sees the first one.
Yeah.
He gets attacked by the shovel. So all we know is that eels are like approaching and swarming around the body at that moment. And then in later shots, they're like ravenous. And like the moment it hits the water, it's blood in the water.
Yeah.
And it's like splashes, but no shots of visual scenes of eels doing any of that. Mm-hmm. It's just implied because we saw the previous scenes.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, you know, I can assume that that's what's happening. And we do. But it's just curious that first scene, and maybe, you know, I could be misremembering it as well, but I feel like it was not as visceral as the later ones become, like piranhas. The first one wasn't like that. In fact, the eels aren't even on the body at first because it hits the water and like kind of, you know, has its own physics fun in there as it drifts around and kind of rotates and and then the eels start kind of swimming around it, kind of like he was swam around in the tank.
I think it's two parts of the same scene. The first one,
for
like
sure,
we see it float for a while, and then they become ravenous.
But the scene shifts focus to the fight. Where he brains the caretaker with the rock or whatever he's on.
Yeah.
I'll have to. I'd be curious to rewatch that one as well to see exactly how that plays out, because I'm still curious about whether these eels are real.
Okay. I think they are.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They disappear a lot.
They do.
They're visions in a lot of scenes, and they're supposed to be real in others, so what are we meant to believe?
They're both.
He's already had the water by the time we're seeing eels, who knows?
They're cosmic eels.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Because, like, we get the potential of the Lovecraftian elements, but are forced to experience the story through the perspective of a character who's under the influence of something that changes what you experience about the world around you.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, is DiCaprio dreaming or not situations, you know?
Yeah.
Also, what's the credence? Gosh, sorry. I keep elongating this. Last question. I promise it's the last one. What do you think is the credence to the scene with his mom saying he'll never come back, he'll never return, and him escaping at the end? What do you think the relevance is there?
Like, almost that she's saying, you know, like, you'll never come back as yourself.
Yeah, maybe he's definitely dead, and this isn't, like, the whole fact that he's a demonic, grinning demon man is just like him bringing the eels somewhere else in the world, maybe, or I don't know.
Right. I had a split-second thought where maybe I was like, I don't know how it happened, when it happened, or why it would happen, but is he the Baron at the end? Like, I feel much better now. I'm in a younger body. I have my wife, sister, daughter with me. We're escaping the flaming castle. And I don't know when it would have happened. I can't pinpoint that. And I don't have a lot of proof to that statement. But it was a split-second theory I had at the very end there.
Here's a bit of credence, and it kind of calls back to a random thing that I didn't have a lot of belief in myself, but said earlier in the episode, or earlier in the cast here, was about how, you know, it harkens back to what the Baron found.
Oh.
Maybe he isn't the Baron.
Maybe.
He is, the reason he controls everything is because he is he's the leader of them. He's not the Baron. The Baron is dead and is a vessel for a thing.
Yeah.
And now that he's gained all of these worm carriers, eel carriers, he is in control of them very directly as a result, as we implied, but has more agency than just that.
Yeah, maybe.
And like, by then, you know, went through competing over the mind of our protagonist.
Yeah.
Because that smile at the end is like very specifically evil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And like,
It's the one thing in the whole movie that I couldn't quite figure out.
and there's a whole line.
Like by the end of it, I was
There's
like,
also a whole line when he's presenting her the wedding dress,
yeah,
where he like really harbors on the fact that it's ironic that she has this moment when the young man shows up. He has a line about that.
yeah. He says,
and that's important to him.
Leave it to our young friend, Mr. Lockhart, to be the one. Yeah.
So it could be something where he, because he could have killed the guy at any moment.
Oh yeah. He could have just been conditioning him to be a new vessel.
I think he's the new vessel for our Baron,
Yeah.
otherworldly demon man in that
Final
interpretation.
moment. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Because like during that dialogue with the CEOs, there's no moment where he delivers a lot of information that the Baron wouldn't know.
right. Yeah, they're just
There's nothing that clarifies that he recognizes these old people that show up in the car, other than he knows the name Pembroke.
Pembroke. Yeah.
And he's, where's Pembroke? He said, Pembroke's gone.
Yeah. And they're like, all right, have you lost your mind? No, I feel much better now. Yeah.
And he rides off, and he's got the girl that he was already trying to rape and impregnate, or do whatever is important for the eel god.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's insanely unreasonable.
All right, well, we'll leave you with that.
Let us know if any of that feels interesting. And I think I brought it up before as well. I'm curious to see if there's any people who have never watched this movie but listen to this then watch it.
Yeah.
What order do you feel things? The last thing I think, it wasn't exactly that, but it was post a comment before listening to us talk about it, but after watching it, and then
listen,
reply to that comment.
Yeah, right.
After listening to us about, what sort of things we made you think about, or maybe you thought of something we didn't and forgot about.
Oh, I'm sure
the relevancy of certain scenes.
Yeah,
because we're two stupid dudes. That's us.
We just like talking about stuff.
We do. We get sidetracked, which is the whole point of the show.
Yep.
And we focus on the things we're interested in, which is like drilling teeth out and the eldritch, but possibly miss real human connection and implication. Well, there could also be credence, to that theory about the Baron being in a new vessel, with alignment to the scene of the Eels realizing that she had her period.
Yeah.
Because the Baron's vessel doesn't know.
Yeah.
If it's even a hierarchy like that, maybe it's like a hive mind situation.
Sure.
All these eels that sort of, because they're all working together when they're out in the water doing stuff, apparently, creating little hordes and eating corpses or whatever the heck they're doing. But they like encircle her.
Yeah.
After realizing that.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
That's what's happening, and like now she's like a fertile vessel, or I don't know. It's important to their system for some reason.
Yeah.
She's like the queen, but doesn't know it. I don't know. Yeah, because that all that happened in sequence there. Mm-hmm. The Eels realize it.
Yeah.
And then they just circle her and.
Mm-hmm. And then she escapes the pool and
she
runs
leaves?
to the. Yeah, she.
We don't see what happens after that.
No, we just see her in the hallway next, soaking wet.
So who knows what occurred there with the Eels? If maybe they bounced, maybe not.
I don't know.
Tricky. Bunch of body doubles up in here.
Oh, dang.
Maybe that is a whole body double situation. It's not just like they've healed the teeth. It's just a body double.
Made of eels? Oh, man.
And the husks are just the original people. And it's not like they eventually stop being useful. It's just there was, at some point, a husk of our main character. Maybe that's the corpse that falls on him at the end. It's him.
That'd be wild.
Let us know if it's him.
Oh, man.
Because that'd be insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely feels like a body double situation where they're like in their original form. Like they're perfect.
Which could explain why the Baron is, like when he pulls his face off, like I'd mentioned that the scar or whatever, it looks like it's writhing.
Yeah.
Maybe just made of eels.
Well, I mean, and the body double thing could be perpetuated, because I was like talking about, I was like, how do they have that science to make his faces?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't. Maybe the eels can just do that.
Maybe.
Because they're making body doubles of people.
Oh, man. This is kind of a spiral.
I mean, it took us this long to get to this point, I suppose,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think there's definitely credence in that being a possibility. So there's two huge theories there. One is the body double theory, and that our main hero doesn't make it out, which seemed like what happens, like based on the craziness of his face on the final scene. Like he's not himself anymore in some capacity.
Right.
Or there's something about what's real and what isn't real.
Yeah.
In the moment that water gets involved.
Yeah.
All the way up until the end, and like whether or not water can be trusted, even though it's in almost every scene of this movie, up until the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
But it's all fire.
Well, don't stare too long.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did today. It's pretty late for us now.
Until next time.